November 2020. This November was colder than usual. And this time we couldn't blame the weather for being frozen. But because of lockdown, online lessons, working from home, 1.5 meter distance, they were all part of the new standard. I've listened to people telling me they wanted to quit school because they felt no connection. I've listened to people telling me that they finally had a break from daily pressure. As if Corona had clicked the button. For me, that was the first moment where pressure to perform was visible in my own environment. But what is pressure to perform? I think everyone has their own opinion or definition for this. According to Mind, an organization that is committed to mental health in the Netherlands, almost 70% of the students indicated that they felt often to very often pressure to perform. It can lead to mental problems such as stress, insomnia, feelings of depression and burnouts. The pressure to perform is imposed by yourself, the society, school or study, work, parents and your friends. I agree with this definition. And to add on that, the pressure to perform is mostly imposed by yourself, so internally or by your environment, externally. 70% of our young people are faced with pressure to perform. What does this mean for our future? I think this is highlighting the seriousness of this problem right away. Don't you think? The government has also recognized this problem. And for this reason, the government, in collaboration with the University of Amsterdam, started an inquiry into pressure to perform among young people in early 2019. Shown in the recommendation is stated that our government recognizes that they must pay attention to young people under 18 who are dealing with mental problems. The government wasn't the only one who did research into this topic. According to Suzanne Laszlo, director of UNICEF the Netherlands, growing up in a wealthy country does not guarantee a happy or healthy life in which good education is self-evident. Their research showed that Dutch young people endure the most stress due to school pressure. As the school pressure increases, young people feel more emotional problems and less life satisfaction. And on top of that, we have the corona crisis going on. I must admit that I was very shocked by these facts, mainly because it's about young children, and children are our future. I used macro, meso and micro as a tool to structure all the causes I found. We do this to uncover, for example, the intensity of a problem. A macro problem in our society is, for example, inequality. If you live in poverty, you have fewer resources to study than the well-off at home. But also think, for example, of the migration backlog that causes a lot of inequality. This will always be present in our world, but it's good to be aware of it. Competition society is also another macro problem that is very dominant in our lives. Look around you. We spend the most of our lives trying to get the best out of ourselves. Otherwise, we may not be worthy enough. Thinking about making a career, but also to win that running race and win the golden medal. Or seeing your parents work 24/7 as a child already amplifies the issue that we have. It started when we are little, from the moment we would be assessed in primary school. If you answer a question wrong, a bold red line will appear. And if you get an answer right, you will get a green curl. And if you're lucky, you get a sticker. How competitive do we want it to be? As a result, we have been comparing ourselves for the rest of our lives. Which grade do you have? What's your weight? I have 50 friends, what about you? And social media plays a big role in this, and it reinforces the feelings we have. And by reinforcing the feelings of being well and being okay, or not being okay, could result in a lot of stress. The Dutch educational system is also part of this cause, but then on the meso level. As stated earlier, the Dutch government recognizes that young people are struggling with the pressure to perform. A logical thought would be, do something about it. However, it's not that easy as it may seem. The most important thing is that there is recognition for the problem from top down. The work effort is there. I spoke with the recently graduated education scientist Iris Tramper. She indicated that there is an enormous shift going on within education to organize education differently. Among other things, the digital age influences this. Books become less relevant due to the infinite information on the internet. As a result, knowledge is no longer the primary goal in education. You need skills. How do you work together? How do you give feedback? How do you get feedback? The reason why they haven't made this change from top down is simply that they don't know how to exam this. After all, examination must be equal for everyone. So the main question is how. Looking at what is possible at a local level is an example of micro. In the past period, I've been greatly inspired by the documentary series Klassen. The documentary is about fighting for equal opportunities in education. Some children struggle with their home situation and others suffer from the pressure to perform. This led to a massive interest in children with the age category between 9 and 14 years old. In the Netherlands, we prepare our children for the big step in their 11th year of life. From that moment on, you will choose the path that you want to sail. They have to pay attention because deviating is not easy once chosen that path. We give children study advice. The documentary makers of Klasse and other researchers wondered whether 11 is the age to make this choice. Klasse shows that there is no real inquiry ever being conducted. Why do we determine the level of education at the age of 11? And most importantly, whether this is the best for a child. You know what they always say, if you want to learn something from the past, you have to look at history. According to the Education Museum of Amsterdam, the first school were founded in 1800 by churches and monasteries to spread the Christian faith and teach children to read. Later, in 1874, the child law came from Samuel Houghton that prohibited factory work for children under 12 years. And later on, education became compulsory from the age of 6 to 12 years old. According to my great inspiration, Marjolein Moorman, this isn't the only reason. She stated that in agricultural society, children simply had to work from the age of 12. For this reason, agrarian society wasn't based on giving children many opportunities to do the things they would like to learn, because the food wasn't bringing itself to the table. Since then, the educational system developed and children could follow a study after primary school. But we're still committed to that old system, mainly because that's how we used to do it, so why do it differently? I understand that in the past, children were essential for making a living, but several things in life have been innovated. Women are allowed to go to school, the era of the telephone, the era of the electric car. All these servers have been updated with a new update. It almost seems that we forgot to update the school system. A system with an outdated server will not work, and that is why the school system is part of the cause. Marjolein Moorman also mentioned something beautiful, what links up to this. At the age of 11, we tell children, you are this or you are that. Everyone is put in a box, as if at the age of 11 we precisely can see where a child or a person belongs. It is strange that based on what we see in a child and the CITO examination, we say, well, this is you. At the end, it becomes very predictive. The moment you say to a child, you fit in box A, there's a strong possibility that the child will be box A. We actually turn it around. We select, and based on that selection, you become something. Education in Estonia isn't compulsory until the age of 7, but almost all 3 to 7-year-olds go to kindergarten. In kindergarten, they practice the things they would like to learn and were they really good at. They focus on social, emotional and physical development. Primary school is at the age from 7 to 16 years old. The critical people might say, okay, but are they capable enough when they go to high school? In 2016, PISA tested the ability of 15-year-olds within Europe to apply the skills of knowledge to real-life problem solving in reading, maths and science. And Estonia was one of the top performers. This shows that providing education differently can also have positive outcomes. Some systems can be so complicated because of all the things which are attached to that. Pressure to perform is part of a system, and also little systems within that are attached to it, such as education, the politics, how we teach, how we raise. All those things are connected to it. If you would like to see how I visualize the system with all the problems and perspectives attached to it, please check my scrapbook. During my interview with Bart van Kempen, a school director of primary school, that he was experimenting on how to offer education differently. For the first time, he doesn't use the CITO as an examination, but AMN. AMN is a new way of testing in which the tool is adaptive. This means that the test adapts to your level, so questions become more difficult or more easier based on your answers. Bart has a good feeling about this way of testing. You acquire knowledge throughout skills. The children work together in larger groups in which they can help each other out, search for things on the internet, and always have a teacher to fall back on. For example, if the project includes languages and math, it is not specifically a math lesson, and this makes it more fun for children to do. And you can focus more on talent development and executive functions. According to the SLO, executive functions can be seen as the conductor to the cognitive skills. They are a collection of processes related to managing yourself and the resources required to achieve a goal. Skills such as time management, organization, emotion regulation, working memory, and goal-directed behavior are stimulated in children. These skills can be encouraged by, for example, playing cards as Monopoly, Cluedo, and the Colonists of Catan. Involving parents is also part of this process. And by involving, I mean literally involving. So, for example, parents give guest lectures of their profession. A mother who is director of a bank talking about money and how she got there. Or a transgender policewoman who talks about the dangers of crime. How can I, as Juultje, contribute to this? I want to step in this problem as a contributor. Upcoming year, I would like to see what I can do in order to stimulate the development of children. Via this way, I can contribute and be part of the change within education. I would like to develop, test and implement my ideas to gradually reduce the pressure to perform at a micro level and act on the needs and not on society's pressure. Maybe I will work for an organization and perhaps I will start one myself. I hope that in 2030 we will hear on a floating radio that the pressure to perform among young people has decreased. And there's one more thing I would like to share with you. Don't let anyone tell you you're not good enough, because that has been told to me when I was in primary school. Start by yourself and don't tell children what they can become, but embrace their talent. My name is Juultje and I'm going to get my higher education diploma.